Good afternoon, everyone. It is Monday, August 24, and this is the Signal Mountain Town Council conducting another Zoom meeting. And we'll begin with a Pledge of Allegiance. And Sam, if you'll bring a flag up, and if everyone will mute your mics for anyone who wants to follow along. And that will be followed by a couple of moments of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome everyone back, and thanks everyone for joining in today. We will begin with a roll call. So Carol, if you'll do that, please.
Bill Lusk.
Here.
Councilmember Cheryl Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch.
Here.
Mayor Dan Landrum.
Here. We have no minutes to approve this time, is that correct?
No, we have two sets.
Where did they fall in the packet? Are they at the end?
No, they should be in the front, right after the agenda.
From the tree board council meeting and the
And then the
meeting
regular,
on the 27th.
correct, a special on the 23rd and a regular on the 27th.
Yeah, they're not. I wonder if I'm looking at an older packet.
It looks as if the one that's on the website, for whatever reason, doesn't include the minutes. But they are, there are two sets of minutes. I'm not sure if you all received those or not.
Yeah, they're not in my packet. Let me jump and see. Did we get two different agenda packets sent out?
Not that I'm aware of.
Hold on. I'm going back to Sherry's email. Huh. And that email's it's not popping up, but I have the packet right here in front of me. So do you guys mind? I'd really like to read them without approving them.
So can we wait till the next
before
meeting?
approving them. Yeah, is that okay?
Sure.
You can, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, somebody agrees, I hear. All right. So let's move on to authorization application of driver safety grant. I'm reading the header on
Mr.
it.
Mayor?
A resolution author.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Did you want
Yes.
Mr. Wagner to speak at this time before you go into resolutions?
Oh, so he is available
He
now?
is with us. Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, yes, if he's available, let's do that.
Sorry about that. I'll bring him in
Okay.
right now.
Hey, remember, I need his name and address for the record.
There, are we on now?
Say your address and then
Dave Wagner,
is yours.
at 930 Ridgeway Avenue. I'm in the flag football gown. The reason I'm coming before you today is to ask you to give us a slight bit of leeway in the two older leagues to play 6v6 rather than 5v5. It would not change the composition of the team. It would not increase numbers on the team. It would simply increase the number on the field by 2. The reason that the coaches have asked me to come and ask you for this is because, well, it's basically strategic. In the 2nd and 3rd grade and 4th and 5th grade leagues, they begin to pass the ball more. and it's virtually impossible to defend against the pass with only 5. 6 makes a big difference. It adds 1 to the defensive secondary.
Okay, is that it, David?
That's the whole thing. Just to give you an update, we had just under 150 kids who have signed up and are placed on 21 different teams. And we've got three or 4 on a waiting list in case anybody drops. So we had a good response. The most number of teams we've ever had. Everybody's stayed separated. I've done spot checks and seen masks at practice. We're looking good 1 week in.
All right, thank you. We'll bring this up when we discuss recreation and discussion later this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Start with a resolution authorizing the town manager to submit an application for the Public Entity Partners Driver Safety Matching Grant Program. Just a brief introduction, Boyd.
Sure. This is something we do every year, and it's basically a reimbursement for things that we would be doing anyway. We do a driver history check on vehicle operators each year. This pays 100% of that, and it will also provide some reimbursement towards the GPS units that we have in the vehicles. So they consider those both a safety mechanism and an anti-theft device. So that this will reimburse us for some costs, again, that we will already be incurring.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved.
Susanna, would you like to second?
I will second.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion. Carol, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Vice Mayor Bill Lusk,
Here? Or yes, sorry.
Councilmember Cheryl Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor Dan Landrum.
Yes. Next, we have a resolution authorizing the town manager to purchase mobile and portable digital radios and accessories, Tennessee State Contract number 21424 from Motorola Solutions, Inc. for the amount of $19,676 to be used by the fire department for the town of Signal Mountain. So Boyd, if you'll fill us in on where this falls with our budget.
This is a budgeted item. It's one of the purchases that we attributed to the direct appropriations grant from the state, which allows purchases for safety equipment, which this qualifies. These are for the fire department. So they're a fairly specialized piece of equipment in terms of the portable radios, as they have to have certain features to be used in hazardous environments. And this is under what we have budgeted for the purchase.
Do we hear a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Susanna got it?
I was waiting
All
on
right.
Bill.
He was kind of stone-faced on that one.
He's like, I'm not saying anything.
That's right.
Zoom etiquette is just, we're never going to get used to this.
No.
All right,
That's
we
fine.
have a motion and a second. This is pretty straightforward. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Carol, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Vice Mayor Bill Lusk,
Yes.
Councilmember Cheryl Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor Dan Landrum.
Yes. All right, we're moving now into ordinances.
Mr. Mayor, I do have Chief Mitchell in the waiting room if you'd like to bring him in for these codes related discussions. Or I can wait until you.
Yes. No, we'll want him actually probably right now because I
Okay.
think this is one that we'll have some back and forth on.
I'll bring him
Sure.
in now.
I'll go ahead and read it while you're setting him up. This is an ordinance to amend Title 5, Chapter 5, Signal Mountain Municipal Code entitled Fees for Use of Town Recreation Facilities and the Town Swimming Pool. Is hereby amended by renaming the chapter as Town Fee Schedules and adding sections 5-507 through 5-516 to said chapter, the text of which shall follow. Be it ordained by the Town Council of the Town of Signal Mountain, Tennessee, that Title 5, Chapter 5 of the Town of Signal Mountain Municipal Code entitled Fees for Use of Recreation Facilities in the Swimming Pool is hereby amended by renaming chapter as Town Fee Schedules and adding sections 5-505 through 5-516 to said chapter, the text of which shall follow. That's enough. That was written by the Department of Redundancy Department. So let's go ahead. We're going to need to discuss these extensively. So let's entertain a motion now, and then we can change anything. Or let me ask Carrie, should we hold off on that? Generally, you want to have a motion before you discuss it, but there's always the chance within these that we may change some things. Would it be better to wait or to make a motion and amend it?
I think it'd be better to have some discussion before a motion, so that you don't have a motion out there that needs to be amended,
Okay.
if possible.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, if somebody makes the motion, that doesn't stop discussion, that you
Supposed to start it.
then would know whether the motion needs to be changed.
All right. Well, I'll throw the first pitch out there. It seems to me like what we ought to do is go through and get an idea of where we were and what we're going to and what the justification was on these. Does that seem reasonable with the council? All right. Hearing nothing. Anybody have any specific questions to begin with? If not, I wonder if Eric could just jump in. Did the tap fee change, Eric? You're muted, sir. You're still muted, Eric. He's still talking.
There, now, how about that?
Better.
Right. So basically what this chapter did, the tap fee is included in, it was basically what we did, we simplified the way we do a fee structure for all the building codes. The chapter or Title 5, Chapter 5 always existed, but it did not include any building or construction fees. The fees for like you coming in a building permit or plumbing permit or electrical permit, they were located in Title 12, Chapter 1, 2, 5, Chapter 13 or Title 13 under lot clearance, and Title 19, Chapter 2 and 3. So basically what we did, we cleared all the fees out of those and put them in one place so it's easier to identify. The tap fee for technology administration and a permit base fee, every permit always had a base fee. But what we did, we realigned all the permits to include this basic tap fee. And basically what we did, we looked at other areas in Hamilton County and outside Hamilton County around the state. And that's basically the administrative fee and the basic permit fee. We're a little low from what other places are charging, but we think it's appropriate for what we do.
Eric, is that tap nomenclature a term of art in municipal code?
It will be. It's in there now, and it's explained under 5-507 general code provisions.
Mm-hmm.
Tap fee, it explains what it is and how much each portion of that fee is.
Well, I guess I meant the technology administration and permit. Is that something that you use normally in, or is that our own term?
No, that's a normal, that's nomenclature that's used throughout the code industry, I'll say.
All right. All right, moving on down. Can you talk about any significant changes on fees, just the general fee structure for the individual items?
Well, one of the things we did, our fee structure was an older structure. Basically what we did, we simplified it. If you look at the building fees, we had it broke down way too far. So if somebody would come in, basically, so the permits from $100 to $1,000, you know, they would go up $15, and 1,000 one up, it'd be 15 for that first 1,000. Well, we had it in much smaller increments. But basically what we did is, if you're going to build a deck, the permit fee that you will pay under this new structure and the permit fee that you paid in the past don't really change. We didn't want to, you know, increase for the smaller projects. For residential and commercial construction, they, you know, they increased. We were very low compared to other areas in our county and in the area compared to our fees. So what we did, we raised them slightly. I'm talking about $1 per 1,000, from $4 to $5. And then we restructured it where it's easier for the builder to figure out what his fee is going to be. So that's basically it on those fees. On the other ones, we simplified it, like electrical permit. If you wanted to put in a generator in the past, there was a fee per how many kilowatts your generator was. And we you know, looked at that as like, why do we really, you know, the generator is going to meet code anyway. Why are we charging a different fee for a smaller one than a larger one? So we combine that fee into, there is a generator fee for, you know, pulling a permit, electrical permit for a generator. Plumbing codes, we simplified. We had a long list of fixtures. So we charge by the fixtures. We reduced that, you know, grouping them easier to understand. So basically the building fees, the mechanical, we really shortened up by, you know, it's by evaluation fee, but we included the tap fee and all the fees, but simplified it in another way. Because if you're going to put a pool in, and let's say you're going to have a heater for your pool, you're going to do a ground disturbance, possibly a ground disturbance permit. You're going to need a plumbing permit. You're going to need an electrical permit, and you could need a gas permit. So we simplified that a little bit too in the fee structure. They'll still have to pull the permits, but
Do they have tap for all three?
there will not be a tap for all three. There'll be a tap for your first one, and then you go from there. But electrical was another one where it was really hard to understand the way we had it. So we simplified it just basically by volts, or if it's a temporary structure or a temporary service pole, or so there were some slight increases that just bring us in line with every place else in the county. And we made it easier to understand. So what we've done, and we put it all in one location, so it's easier for a contractor to find.
Okay. And there's, there is no tap for a chicken permit. It's just 35.
Right, no tap for a chicken permit. And those were already in the fee structures. We just put, you know, eventually I would think that all of our town fees, regardless of what they are, will be in this this title.
Yeah, that was one of the things that we, you know, other things like the chicken permit that we didn't used to have. That's kind of where it ended up. And when we looked at a place where we could migrate all the fees in various departments to a single place where it'd be easy for people to find out what something was going to cost, this seemed to be the logical spot. So I think we'll see some additional amendments to it down the road as we incorporate other fees and stuff for the town.
All right. if there's no further discussion at this stage, we can entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I will second that.
I seconded, but I guess you didn't hear me.
Yeah, I think we're having some internet.
I picked her up as the second.
That's fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't, things are freezing up quite a bit on my side. All right, do we have any further discussion on this topic? And this will be for first reading. Title 5, Chapter 5. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Carol, will you take a roll call vote on the town fee
Bill
schedules?
Lusk,
Yes.
Councilmember Cheryl Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor Dan Landrum.
Yes. All right, so this is the Wildland Urban Interface Fire Code. And I think this one requires a separate meeting. So I would like to propose, well, let's just talk about that for a minute. Anybody else have thoughts on this? This potentially is it's not just that it's controversial, it potentially messes with our canopy.
A lot.
Yeah, and I think we need to be really careful about this, even though we need to be really careful about forest fires as well. So I just think all of these decisions have risk and costs and benefits associated with them. And I would like to see us involve the tree board in this. They're the ones that have spent the most
Absolutely.
time looking at this. Do you think we should schedule this as a standalone for the next meeting? Or perhaps if we kind of put a pin in this, and if it looks like the next meeting might be too busy, I don't want to get short this thing. But if we don't have a full agenda next time, we could discuss it at the meeting, or we could call a special meeting. Any thoughts?
Yeah, the wildland urban interface portion of fire code seems like a solution looking for a problem. From the best of my recollection, the wildfires that we've had on the mountain have been ones on the brow from fires coming up the brow. And I just don't recall any wildfires that, let's say, came off of Prentice Cooper to adjoining neighborhoods. And if you look at just the 2,300 square foot house and the having to have 60 feet total buffer, you're losing about 38% of your tree cover if you consider the buffer plus the footprint of the house. And that's a lot.
Well, if you look at, it's not about cutting trees down. It's talking about underbrush. And we had Tennessee Forestry come in and do an ignition density map and the wildland urban interface risk map. And, you know, we have some areas that are major impact areas that, you know, need to be addressed. We could, you know, they've identified us as a high impact community from Tennessee Forestry. So that's why we're looking at, you know, this isn't designed to go out and tell people to cut trees down by any shape of the imagination. Basically, it's to give people through the Firewise Tennessee program, people best practices on what to do to reduce the impact of a wildfire should it be in our area.
Yeah.
You know, it's also, we have information, let's say for new subdivisions on, you know, plantings, what trees and plants are good, to plant that reduce the impact of wildfire and what ones don't. It's not about cutting trees down at all. That's not in there anywhere. It does talk about a defensible space, and it recommends at a minimum a 30-foot defensible space. But we're talking about not having brush growing up right against your house.
Sure, and that makes sense, but it would make more sense to me though if we were living in a place like California that's fairly arid. So I just, what problems have we had with wildfires?
Well, we haven't had any big ones yet. We have had the ones where we've had to have the airdrops, on the brow. We've, had them in the area. We had them out at the end of Sawyer Road, where we had to have airdrops from forestry and the private contractors. This year we had one that was coming up from the W Road that got dangerously close to some houses over on the brow. Dangerously close. And, in our ISO audit, not having any type of wildland urban interface, this is basically what we did. We wrote this chapter, and this isn't just the wildland urban interface. Chapter 4 is added to Title 7. Title 7 is our fire code, which we really need to adopt to bring us into compliance with the state. But, they identified the fact that we don't have in our, as they called it, wooded community, that they could not believe that we had not adopted some type of wildland urban interface protection for the community. And that's what we did. We wrote a chapter taking best practices and developed that.
I think rather than discuss the whole thing twice, because we do really need to bring the tree board in on this, why don't we just hold this discussion till the next meeting, if possible?
I'm comfortable with that.
I would like to hear from them as well.
And I would as well too.
Would it be possible, since we're in Title 7, Chapter 1, to pass the rest while excluding Chapter 4?
That was going to be my question, if we could move forward with the general fire code, which would mean passing this ordinance with the exception of Section 3. And then we could come back and add that as a separate amendment once it's been discussed.
Section 3 includes Chapter 4.
Yeah, it'd just be taking out Chapter 4.
Section 3 is all wildland urban interface.
Okay, so yeah, Section 3 is Chapter 4.
Right.
Can we hear a motion
So moved.
stating that?
That's it.
Did you get that, Carol?
Carol, you're muted.
Sorry. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
I don't lip read that well, Carol.
Probably just as well.
Often, yes. All right, so Carol, you might want to, just to clarify, this is a motion to approve. I don't have an ordinance number, but it's just if at the end, Chapter 4, Section 7.
Make a suggestion.
Yes.
So I was going to put that that you guys were voting on approving the ordinance with the exception of Section 3.
Yeah, but the ordinance, the way it reads, it says to add a new Chapter 4. Specifically mentions wildland urban interface. So it says we're going to do all this except for the part that we said we're going to do.
We can strike in the heading and to add new chapter 4 sections, basically from and to add new chapter 4, strike the remainder of the heading. And I think that takes care of that. And we'll change the existing section 4 to section 3 for the second reading.
Okay.
All right, you guys, does that accurately reflect the motion in the second? So
Right now.
Carol, can you take a roll call vote when you're ready?
Vice Mayor Bill Lusk,
Yes?
Councilmember Cheryl Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor Dan Landrum.
Yes. Next, we have an ordinance to amend Signal Mountain Code Title 12. Is that correct, Carol? Is the building code, residential code?
Yes, that's what I have.
Okay, an ordinance to amend Signal Mountain Municipal Code Title 12 to renumber chapters 3 through 8 and add chapters 9 through 11, and further to amend chapter 1 so as to adopt the 2018 editions of the International Building Code and of the International Existing Building Code and certain appendices of these codes as revised and amended as official building codes to the town of Signal Mountain, and to remember the sections and amend section 12-103 concerning special amendments to the International Building Code and the International Residential Code, and to amend section 12-102 concerning the ICC ANSI A117.1-2017, and delete the North Carolina and Accessibility Code and replace with the ADA standards for the accessible design as the official accessibility codes of the town of Signal Mountain. Would you guys like for me to read that again?
Yes, please. Backwards. Yeah.
All right, so if I'm understanding correctly, we're into the section now that we had to do. These were the codes that needed to be updated because they were updated and we were getting behind. Is that correct, Eric?
Yes, that's correct. Basically what it does, it brings us from the 2009 codes to the 2018 codes. And that brings us into compliance with state law on where we have to be with our codes.
All right. Do we hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Nope. Carol, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Bill Lusk,
Yes?
Councilmember Cheryl Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor Dan Landrum.
Yes. All right, move on to plumbing codes, I believe now. And well, let's read it first. This is an ordinance to amend Title 12, Chapter 2, Signal Mountain Municipal Code, and renumber the sections so as to adopt the 2018 edition, to adopt certain appendices and amendments to said code as the official plumbing code of the town of Signal Mountain. Eric, any brief setup on this?
This is very straightforward. It basically, when it says renumbers, we took the Title 12 and renumbered the entire the whole title, because we included the gas and the electrical code, which came from originally Title 19, and we put them under Title 12 too. So basically it's a renumber. The plumbing code was simplified quite a bit. Our old ordinance had quite a few things that were written into it over the years that were included now in the current code. So it was shortened up, simplified, and basically very straightforward.
All right, we can entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Not having urinal privacy and such things memorized, I don't know if there are significant changes, but reading through it all looks accurate. Anybody else have any questions here? I urge everyone to read through this. It's fascinating reading. All right, Carol, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Bill Lusk,
Yes.
Councilmember Cheryl Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor Dan Landrum.
Yes. Next, we move to an ordinance to amend Title 12, Chapter 5, Signal Mountain Municipal Code by moving to Title 12, Chapter 3, and renumbering the sections so as to adopt the 2018 edition of the International Mechanical Code and to adopt certain appendices and amendments to said code as the official mechanical code of the town of Signal Mountain. Same as the prior, correct, Eric?
Same as the prior. And I might add that one of the amendments to all of these codes was, if you remember, we took the fees out of these particular codes and put them in our fee code. But this is very, very straightforward.
Do we hear a motion?
So moved.
Or second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Did anything change in the stop work orders section?
No, we didn't change anything in those.
Carol, will you take any additional discussion? If not, Carol, will you do a roll call vote, please?
Bill Lusk,
Yes.
Councilmember Cheryl Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor Dan Landrum.
Yes.
If I could just say one thing, and Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, I do think in the violations and penalties sections and the stop work order section, it added reference to the administrative hearing officer, which I don't think was there before.
Right, in the violation and penalties, it did add. We didn't have, the other ordinances have been written so long ago, they did not include the administrative hearing officer in the language. So
Okay.
that was included.
Thought I recall. So now we can actually do something.
Right,
We have someone else, and that's Charlie Post still, right?
correct.
How long does Charlie hold that position? Is that a 2-year seat? Does anybody know? My question is, and this isn't endorsing anyone or doing anything like that, but Charlie is running for council. Would he be able to still be that if he was a council member?
I don't think so. So I don't recall the term on that agreement, but I'll check
It's a
on it.
4-year term.
Thanks, Sam. When was the last one done? Do you have that?
It's been a few.
I was looking forward into the code on that particular issue coming up next, down the line. I'm not sure when he was elected to that position or
I think
appointed.
it's been 2 years. I think
Right.
probably say he's got a way to go. That's not one that, that's a pretty specific function. Harder to fill. All right, next we have an ordinance to amend Title 19, Chapter 2, Signal Mountain Municipal Code by moving to Title 12, Chapter 4, and renumbering the section so as to adopt the 2018 edition of the International Fuel Gas Code and to adopt certain appendices and amendments to said code as the official gas code of the town of Signal Mountain. So again, it's a cleanup in here.
Yes. Again, very straightforward. It's moving it out of Title 19, brings it in line with the other building related codes to Chapter or Title 12. And again, we had to renumber them. But other than that, as a code, it's very simple.
Do we hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Carol, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Bill Lusk,
Yes.
Councilmember Cheryl Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Dan Landrum.
Yes. Next, we have an ordinance to amend Title 12, Chapter 5, Signal Mountain Municipal Code, and renumbering the sections to adopt the 2009 edition of the International Energy Conservation Code for 1 and 2 family dwellings and townhomes, and to adopt the 2012 edition of the International Energy Conservation Code for commercial buildings, and to adopt certain amendments of said codes as the official energy conservation code of the town of Signal Mountain. Same drill, Eric?
Okay, this one, in a nutshell, there's been when the Energy Conservation Code was initially developed, the federal government mandated the states adopt the code, and they attached it to federal funding for certain things. Therefore, states adopted it and made municipalities adopt it. Well, with certain revisions of the code, so there was, if you notice, there's an 09, 12, there was a 15 and an 18 of the energy code. The state of Tennessee has adopted just exactly what this is, the 09 for 1 and 2 family dwellings and townhomes, and the 12 for commercial structures. The reason that is because beginning with the 12 and the 15 and 18 of the energy efficiency code, it put some very substantial restrictions on residential construction. We couldn't build houses as we know today. All the houses would have to have 2x6 or 2x8 walls in the newer codes. So therefore the state at that level adopted the 2009 for your residential code with the residential tables, so we can follow that. That's what we would call normal construction as we know it. And then the commercial code, the 12 was satisfactory to them, so the state has adopted and passed that. Therefore, we are doing the same thing as the state and all communities in the state have done. I guess if you really wanted to get restrictive, we could adopt the newer codes, but that would be, there's some things in there that I don't know why they were written the way they were, but these are the most reasonable energy efficiency codes that have been adopted, the states choosing to stay with them. And the reason most of our codes were the 09 codes, but we have never officially adopted an energy efficiency code, and this officially adopts it. So it's another one of those, we have to do it. So that's why we're doing it.
And it basically says what we've been doing is what we have to do.
Exactly. What we've been doing is what we have to do. We've been following this code, even though it wasn't officially adopted. When our code officials go out and our building inspectors go out, they make sure that our structures are built following the energy efficiency code.
All right, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any council discussion? Hearing none, Carol, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Bill Lusk,
Yes.
Councilmember Cheryl Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor Dan Landrum.
Without question, yes. Next, we have an ordinance to amend Signal Mountain Municipal Code, Title 19, Chapter 3, by moving into Title 12, Chapter 6, in order to adopt the National Electrical Code 2017 edition as the official electrical code of the town of Signal Mountain. Eric, any update in our electrical codes of note?
No. It's NFPA 70s, the National Electrical Code. The state adopts it in its entirety except for 2 amendments, and they apply to arc fault interrupters, and they make them optional in some areas. And so we adopt the code in its entirety with those 2 amendments that the state has provided for. The way it's written, we can't change this. So it's very straightforward. It's the National Electrical Code. It's what everybody follows.
So arc faults are not required for bedrooms in Tennessee now?
They,
Optional?
well, the way they've rewritten that, the code is, the code is changed to for what you think of as an arc fault interrupter, the outlet.
Mhm.
They have gone to
To the breakers.
breakers, right? So the state has just amended that in the code to recognize that. So there was a lot of, it took them almost a year working on this with the building industry and electricians to get this passed. So we didn't have, that's not our wording, that's the state's wording.
Yeah, okay. All right. Do we hear a motion?
So moved.
I'll second that. Any council discussion? Anybody want to talk GFCIs or arc faults or 14.2s or 12.2s or any of those kinds of things?
Yeah.
No, not really, not today. All right. Carol, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Bill Lusk,
Yes.
Councilmember Cheryl Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor Dan Lander.
Yes. Next, we have an ordinance to amend Title 12, Chapter 4, Signal Mountain Municipal Code by moving it to Title 12, Chapter 7, and renumbering the sections so as to adopt the 2018 edition of the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code and to adopt certain appendices and amendments of said code as the official swimming pool code of the town of Signal Mountain. Any changes in here, Eric?
Nope, no changes. The big change is this one really updates our code because we were operating on the Southern Building Code Congress, the SBCC 1991 version of the pool code. And the SBCC hasn't been even in existence in probably 15 years at least. So this one updates us to the most current pool code and nothing outstanding in it. We did identify in the property maintenance code, it identifies what a pool is. And we also modified that if somebody's going to put a pool in, an in-ground pool, the code says that it needs to be filled, but it also says it needs to be a fence around it prior to filling it. Well, sometimes that's hard to finish all of your work because if you put a fiberglass pool in, it needs to be filled immediately before you even do your concrete work. So what we made a provision that it has to have a temporary fence until the work's done and the permanent fence can be built. So we gave some flexibility there. That's the only changes.
All right. So I'll move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any additional council discussion? We have and I doubt that it matters coming because it was, but I believe coming before the BZA this week, somebody asking for a variance on a pool. When you're in the middle of something like this, it wouldn't affect anything that was ongoing, right?
No, these provisions won't take effect until the final reading. And then if there has already been a case started, whether it be a BZA, there's been a permit pulled, they will fall under the current codes for that project.
Okay. All right. Any additional council discussion? Carol, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Bill Lusk,
Yes.
Councilmember Cheryl Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor Dan Landrum.
Yes. Okay. Next, we have an ordinance to amend Title 12, Chapter 7, Signal Mountain Municipal Code by moving it to Title 12, Chapter 8, and renumbering the sections so as to amend to said code as the official unsafe building code of the town of Signal Mountain.
The only change in this particular chapter is renumbering it and then adding or revising the 12.808, the violation and penalties, again, to reflect the administrative hearing officer. And I believe the stop work order wording in all of our codes was different. So what we did, we used the same stop work order wording in all of them now, so they're consistent. So that's the two changes to this, if I remember correctly. Some of these this has been about a year's worth of work, so it gets starts to run together after a while.
Yeah, it's all a lot of the same, but all had to be done. Do we hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Carol, who came through first?
Vice Mayor Lusk.
Any additional council discussion? Carol, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Vice Mayor Bill Lusk,
Yes.
Councilmember Cheryl Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor Dan Landrum.
Yes. Next, we have an ordinance to amend Title 12, Chapter 7, Signal Mountain Municipal Code, but moving it to Title 12, Chapter 9, and renumbering the section so as to amend to said code is the official site preparation, excavation, and grading code of the town of Signal Mountain. Same thing, Eric?
Same thing. This is basically our land disturbance, which we've had land disturbance code for quite some time. Basically, the changes were under the violation and penalties to bring it, the wording in line with the rest of the code, stop work orders, and then to add 12.708, which mentions the fee structure. We put the fees in the fee structure.
Be super handy. All right, I'll move to approve. For a second.
Second.
Any additional council discussion? Hearing none, Carol, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Mayor Bill Lusk,
Yes.
Councilmember Cheryl Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor Dan Landrum.
Yes. Next, we have an ordinance to amend Title 12, Chapter 6, Signal Mountain Municipal Code it's got a typo in there, Carol, by moving it to Title 12, Chapter 10, and renumbering the section so as to amend the composition and powers of the Board of Construction Appeals to said code.
This is a move. This is just renumbering. We did not change anything in this.
Not a word. All right, I'll move to approve.
Second.
Carol, did you see the typo there in the
I do in the second line. I do see
second?
that.
Yeah, okay. All right. Any council discussion? Will you take a roll call vote, please, Carol?
Vice Mayor Bill Lusk,
Yes.
Councilmember Cheryl Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor Dan Landrum.
Yes. Next is an ordinance to amend Title 12, Chapter 8, Signal Mountain Municipal Code by moving it to Title 12, Chapter 11, and renumbering the section so as to amend the code for the Office of the Administrative Hearing Officer in accordance with Tennessee Code Annotated Title 6, Section 54, Sections 1001 through 1018.
Again, this is just a move and renumbering. We did not make any changes in this.
All right, I move to approve. Do we have
Second.
a second? Bill, second. Any additional council discussion? Hearing none, Carol, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Vice Mayor Bill Lusk,
Yes.
Councilmember Cheryl Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor Dan Landrum.
Yes. Next, we have an ordinance to amend Title 13 Signal Mountain Municipal Code by renumbering the chapters so as to adopt the 2018 edition of the International Property Maintenance Code and to adopt certain appendices and amendments to said code as the official property maintenance code of the town of Signal Mountain. This one deserves a little more scrutiny. Boyd, your understanding of what has changed in this from the town manager's standpoint?
This, for one thing, it pulls all of our property maintenance regulation into a single code. We have things kind of scattered through the code as it is now, and it's more comprehensive in nature. We get complaints about just the general condition of a property that right now we really don't have the ability to address. Things like siding and stuff that are maybe rotting and falling off and have a need for maintenance and repair. Right now, there's nothing that specific in our code that allows us to address it with property owners. As with anything like this, as we even though we will have more opportunity to address issues, we will approach them the same way in working with property owners and trying to resolve the issue as opposed to strictly an enforcement mechanism. One thing that we did change in this, I believe this is the section it's in, is right now, before there's any issue with like lawn maintenance, grass or weeds have to be 12 inches in height. Because we do try to work with property owners and get it resolved, we changed that from 12 to 9 so that by the time we give them an opportunity to address it, we're not well above that foot mark. So those are really the only things, again, and trying to put these things in a nutshell is not easy sometimes, but that's really what it accomplishes for us, is allows us a mechanism to address a wider range of issues with properties. It's not going to change how we address those and try to work with property owners to resolve.
Do we have, I'm sorry, did someone else speak? Do we have any ability within here for, and the problem is, I'm going to say clogged gutters, but it's not a matter of clogged gutters and fascia rotting, but it's a matter of mosquito breeding and those kinds of things. Do we have any way to deal with properties that have lots of standing water, abandoned things in their yard, that, for that kind of thing?
Eric may be more familiar with the specifics on that, but I think it would, the general property maintenance and just like the grass or weeds being too high and all that is, I think it's broad enough that we would have some latitude to address issues like that.
Eric, any thoughts?
No, one of the things that this code does where we do not have the ability to do today is the property maintenance code. We get several inquiries a year, either through the fire department or the building codes department, for folks that are renters and they have issues on their property that they can't get resolved. This, under the code, the regular building codes, we don't have any authority to even look at it. And the property maintenance code gives us that, so we can assist either the homeowner or a renter in actually, taking some action or getting the help they need to address. As Boyd said, it also gives us the ability to, we get several complaints a year of unkept buildings, siding falling off, fascia falling off, roofs that are bad. Right now under the code, we don't have any way of addressing those other than asking people to fix their siding or fix their roof. Under the property maintenance code, that gives us an avenue to actually, get those things fixed. So it's a good thing. It falls into, most of the wording is, like there's a part in there, it talks about dead wood, which is almost the exact same wording as in our landscape ordinance. If a tree falls down, you need to take care of it. But by adopting this, because it's an ICC code, it dovetails with all the rest of the codes, and it really makes things a lot cleaner and neater for our inspectors.
right, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Council discussion? Anyone have any questions? All right, Carol, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Vice Mayor Bill Lusk,
Yes.
Councilmember Cheryl Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor Dan Landrum.
Yes. And lastly, we have an ordinance to amend Title 19, Chapters 2 and 3 of the Signal Mountain Municipal Code so as to document the relocation of said sections within the municipal code. This is pretty straightforward. It's just moving things around. Eric, correct?
Correct. It just moves the gas code and electrical code to Title 12.
All right, I move to approve. Or second, and Bill seconds it. Any discussion? Anybody want it in a different order? Hearing none, Carol, will you take a roll call vote?
Lusk,
Yes.
Councilmember Cheryl Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor Dan Landrum.
Yes. Did we get them all?
I think that's everything.
That was all of them? All right, thank you, Eric.
I'd like to just mention too that this, again, I mentioned it earlier, that this was over a year's worth of work that Sam and Chuck Martin and Randy Rigsby were involved in. The four of us, like I said, going over these line by line, making sure they were what we need here in in Signal Mountain. Hundreds and hundreds of hours. So I appreciate this. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for doing that. And let us know what's next. What's the next cleanup section that needs to be hit?
The next fun project.
Yes. All right, thank you. All right, we now move to discussion, recreation facilities. And I guess we can start with the proposal that David Wagner had at the beginning. Anybody have any objections to them going from 4 to 5? Maybe we should.
I'm bringing Jared in at this time also.
Okay, saw that.
I
Anybody
think it's
have
from
any
5
concerns
to
about that?
6.
5 to 6. Thank you, Harry. Any concerns, anyone?
No.
Nope. All right, I don't think we need to vote on that. Or do you? Or maybe we do. What do you think?
You voted on the agreement was that they would follow the protocols as outlined in his initial proposal. So if you wouldn't mind just voting on it, and that we would attach his email request to existing agreements. We don't want to be too formal, but just something to document that they're doing what they're allowed to do.
All right, I move that the Signal Mountain Flag Football League be able to move their number of players per team from 5 to 6 as suggested by Dave Wagner.
Second.
You're muted, Carol. We saw your finger, but we aren't hearing you.
Sorry, who was the second?
Susanna.
Thank you. All right, I
She also
have it.
goes by Sue or Susan
Susie.
or Susie.
I
All
have
right.
it.
We have a motion and a second. Carol, will you take a roll call vote?
Vice Mayor Bill Lusk,
Yes.
Councilmember Cheryl Graham,
Yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor Dan Landrum.
Yes. Jared, any other general report from Recreation, how we're doing?
No, sir, not at all. Flag football's in their second week. Baseball and softball have wrapped up. The older kids, the 12, 13, 14-year-old baseball kids are going to have the fall season out on the county fields. Other than that, we're good.
So we're continuing with our new tradition of having a department head, excuse me, at every meeting. It's the tradition so far. The department head has had a funny joke to start with.
I don't have one.
Oh, okay. Last. Sorry about that.
Yeah, Eric was here for an hour and they didn't.
All right. So,
Well, I have had several requests from various parents to reopen the playgrounds up here on the mountain. So I spoke with Dr. Hendricks today at the health department and got his blessing if we would like to move ahead with that. His only suggestion was that the parents, if at all possible, remember to bring hand sanitizer for their kids and perhaps even some cleaning wipes of some type to wipe something down should it need to be wiped down.
does anyone know the early advice from the CDC was that sure, UV rays do kill coronavirus where they hit, but they don't work underneath where the sun does not hit.
Correct. And he and I spoke at length about that, and his general opinion was, I hate to speak for him, but we did talk, was that it, with the hand sanitizer, kids keeping their hands as clean as possible, that should not be a problem because it is outside, it is in the open. His thing was much better being on a playground than in somebody's basement playing video games face to face. So, yeah. So if anyone would like to consider that, I think it would be a really good idea.
I agree, Cheryl. I think it's time.
Okay, and staff, do you have pause on this subject?
I don't. We still have our signs up, and we go around town 2 or 3 times a day and are asking people to, exit the area, especially here at the pool behind the country club. I had a lady come the other day, and from what Cheryl was saying, they're asking, can we please get back on the playgrounds?
I think when we made that call, as with all the other, safety was a concern and consistency with neighboring areas. And while we may not be a lot like an entity as large as Hamilton County or Chattanooga, we do have surrounding neighbors that we work consistent with. I think basically until not this past weekend, but the one before. And Pumpkin Patch opened back up. So that did kind of change the scenario for us in terms of being consistent. It's not how we have to do things, but unless there's a compelling reason not to, I think it's a big factor.
Would it be a good idea, or is there a way that we could appropriately word an email blast that lets parents know, I mean, assuming that we decide to do that, and it sounds like we're leaning that way, but asking them to bring to clean the equipment themselves before they use it, just to be safe, because you don't know that the person before you did.
Yeah, and I think that would be right. We will try to do some sanitizing as much as possible, but we could leave and someone be there 5 minutes later and contaminate it. So what we do isn't going to be by any stretch perfect. So we're going to need them to help us in that process. So we'll figure out a way to stress that as diplomatically, but as strongly as possible.
Okay. Good luck with that.
Part of our new normal.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and it's working at the MAC. Cheryl, you want to talk about how the limited reopening of the MAC is going and sanitation and those sorts of things?
Yeah, and I was talking to Paul Hendricks about that this morning, and he only gasped once, and then I made him feel better after that, so it was okay. It is a limited opening. Handful of teachers are back. Chattanooga Ballet is up there now. That's actually our largest class. Typically, it's just a teacher student in a 600 square foot room. But with the Chattanooga Ballet, at the most, they have 10 little ballerinas, all wearing their little mask. And what has been amazing to me are, some of these kids are just, 4 or 5 years old. They walk in the door, they space out the door there at the MAC, 6 feet. And we bring them in, we do the health questionnaire. They use the hand sanitizer automatically. And then every single little girl would lean forward and lift up her bangs so we could do the temperature check on her forehead. I mean, it's second nature to them now. None of them were the least bit put off by that. They accept it. That's the way it's going to be. And then they march on off to their class. It's working very, very well. Kids are very.
I happened to be here right after school got out, and some teachers were coming in, and I don't recall what the teacher's name was, but she was asking questions about, she's taking it very seriously. That's my point.
Yeah.
Based on the age of the student, do I need to walk them down the hall? Should I text them?
Mhm.
And this teacher said she's even letting her students know, don't come early. You've got to stay in your car until it's time for you to come in the building. So
Correct. That's exactly.
they're looking for ways to continue to teach. I think the only problem that I'm hearing is that they don't know what the school system's going to do still yet.
Right.
So scheduling's a little tough still.
Yeah, but they've all been real good. The teachers, like I said, are like you said, are communicating very well with the students with the texting. So we don't have a group of people at the door at the same time, which is exactly what we wanted to avoid. We are providing hand sanitizer and cleaning wipes in every classroom. The classrooms that have wind instruments or brass instruments have a clear plastic divider that's 6 foot tall, 5 foot across in between the student and the teacher to avoid any droplets transmitting that way. So we've done everything we can possibly do. And so far, like I said, the happiest part to me is that the kids are great with it. We haven't had a single tear, so maybe me, but no.
I had 3 third graders up there this morning for 3 hours that I worked with, and we had a very pleasant, great experience. They loved it, and I did too. So
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, Jared, is there anything else you want to fill us in on regarding recreation departments or our board?
No, not at all. Concerning the MAC, we'll have the second portable. We'll have it taken down by the end of the week.
Great.
We hope to get started back on it tomorrow. The weather's kind of messed with us a little bit, so we'll have that taken care of. Other than that, we're good.
We do need to, if you guys want to address the issue of playgrounds, I think that was part of a
Should we vote?
general vote for facilities closure. So if we could address that formally, that would be good.
I move that we reopen our playground equipment and advise parents to pre-clean, or how should we say that? Not pre-clean, to take sanitation precautions prior to letting their kids use the equipment.
maybe before and after.
Before and after.
Yeah, I think you won't get as many afters because often, I mean, I know people try,
Well,
but some,
they'll use the hand sanitizer after that helps their child. So.
right.
And
I've seen
comes along.
playground sessions end in tears.
Yeah.
So sometimes the best laid plans, you know,
That's just whenever you fall off the swing, though. So if you,
or get stuck in them.
yeah.
It's hard to get out of those baby ones. All right, I move. We have a second.
Second,
Carol, did you get all those words in there?
I did. I've got reopen playground equipment and advise parents to take sanitizing precautions before and after use.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We take a roll call vote or any other discussion? Take a roll call vote, please, Carol.
Vice Mayor Bill Lusk,
Yes.
Councilmember Cheryl Graham,
yes.
Councilmember Susanna Murdoch,
Yes.
Mayor Dan Landrum.
Yes. And I doubt there's anyone watching this meeting after we've gone through an hour of moving things around. But thank you to Signal Mountain residents who've taken this seriously and are getting us to a place where we can move forward on some of these things. Because this has all been up to people doing the right thing. That's wonderful to hear. All right. Anything else on this subject that you need to add, Boyd?
No, sir.
All right. We are water billing procedures. That's you.
Hey, Boyd,
Yes.
I'm sorry. And did we want to mention anything about the LPRF grant?
Can,
We may not be prepared for that conversation.
right.
Move on to that.
As I told you guys, I think the last meeting, LPRF project went out for bid and it came in significantly over what we anticipated. As they reviewed the bid submissions, the only area where the engineers estimates were considerably off was the same for both bidders. So we've gone back to them and asked for clarification on exactly what they're proposing because it wasn't as anything like was anticipated. So that we're hoping that clarification may give us the ability to modify the project scope is in terms of what the contractors are proposing. But we don't have all that information back yet. So that was the only reason I wasn't.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. It's a good update, but we're still not sure exactly where we're going to end up.
All right, thanks. All right, Boyd, water billing procedures. I don't know if that would be yours.
Sure.
Adam's here.
This is just to revisit when the pandemic started, we suspended late fees and water turnoffs and all, and this was pretty much an industry-wide approach. In checking with other municipalities or more specifically utilities in the area, they all are pretty much either the end of August or September moving back to normal procedures, the first part of September. So I wanted to bring this back up and get guidance on council's preference as we move forward.
So that's basically in shutoffs. That's, I mean, not letting people into the office, or are you thinking more of that coming in to pay bills or keeping that?
So this is just into we can't do anything about the fees themselves or the rates, but we can forgive late fees. We can suspend turnoffs for non-payment. Those are the things that we've been doing to assist folks that may have been economically impacted by being displaced from employment or anything like that. I don't think we've had any major issues in that area, but it was a mechanism for us to be able to help citizens if the need arose.
So like, what was the response with citizens? I mean, how many people have we been able to help through that grace?
That I don't know.
I would advocate for giving it a month because the state of Tennessee is getting the FEMA grant so that people who are unemployed will get the extra $300 a week. They haven't had it since the beginning of August when the CARES money expired. And I think once that mechanism gets in place, they'll be retroactively reimbursed for the month of August. So you might have some people who have good intentions of paying their bills, but they're waiting on that new money to come through from FEMA. So maybe by the end of September would be a more kind way to approach that.
That's reasonable. That's good information, Susanna. Thank you. Everybody okay with that if we hold off a month?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Board applications. We've, I don't know, I know we sent out an email blast that described all the positions, but we got a bunch of applications this time. I think we have 2 for the MAC. We have 4 for personnel. I'm just going from memory here. We have, there was a new one for the MAC board that came in. I saw an email yesterday. Or was that today?
Today. We
there's
have
2.
5 for personnel, 2 for MAC, and 1 for Hemlock.
1 for the what?
the Hemlock Task Force.
Hemlock, okay. Can we move these, do like we always do, write them all up so that we can vote at the next meeting?
You want resolutions for, we've done it different ways. If you want resolutions for all of these for discussion at the next meeting, we can do that. In the past, we have also, you guys have had discussion and then nominated, and we just did the resolutions for the ones that
For the ones that we're gonna do?
to take forward, so. But that's why it's on the way it is now, so you guys could discuss and decide how you wanted to move forward.
Yeah, they're not, I mean, again, maybe I'm dealing with a different agenda packet than others, but those were not included in my agenda packet. They're spread out through other emails. Are they in yours? I must have an older packet that had everything but the minutes in that. Sorry about that. I promise I didn't take anything out. What think ye, rest of council?
Well, I think with the personnel committee, I mean, we've got 5 really strong candidates here too. And 2, you know, 2 that look great for the MAC board. You know, I'm okay with having the conversation at the next meeting, if y'all are.
Yes,
Yeah.
do that.
So we'll prepare a resolution for each of these, but the agenda will have 1 vote for MAC board position and 3 votes for personnel and so forth. Okay.
What about expanding the size of the personnel committee since we have 5 really good people?
It's possible it would take an ordinance change.
You want to propose that, Bill?
I would propose to do that.
So we can look at that next time as well. I think the one that there's been the most, that and BZA, just because the initials confound people if they don't know what that's for. But just the purpose of the personnel committee in our town government style is odd, in that it's not a committee that hires and fires people. And it's not even like it's not like a review board. You know, there are personnel committees sometimes where somebody has a grievance, they go to a personnel committee, and it's not that. It was helpful having the description sent out and the email blast that talked about what each one of them is. So do you want to, well, you've got what you need for that for the next meeting, right, Boyd?
Yes, sir.
All right, stormwater fees. Isn't that
This we put on the agenda, as I indicated previously. This was fairly extensive information. And while you guys have been aware of the process, we haven't had the opportunity to go through it and look at capital projects that are projected and basically what MTS used to do this review. It's very much like the water rate study, but wanted to go ahead and get the information to you and then put it on the agenda for discussion in terms of how we proceed. As I indicated in prior meetings, I think it very well could need a standalone meeting to discuss it.
or a not loaded regular meeting?
Very possibly, yes.
Let's discuss that when we talk about tentative agenda for September 14th, because that might be a fine time. Possible?
Sure.
I don't know what's coming down right now. And if not, we'll have to schedule another one. Everybody in agreement?
Yes.
All right, ready to move on to other business? So, communication from reports and from the mayor council. Haven't had any board meetings. There is a. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, you skipped manager's report.
We did.
Gee, thanks, Carol.
I had to scroll to another page. It's all yours, sir.
Thanks. We've had a proposal from the Playhouse that I'd like to get your feedback on. For quite some time between the stage and where the tiered seating area is, we've had issues with erosion and just general maintenance difficulties through there. It's also hard to accommodate ADA access and seating through there. So they've proposed to improve and pave that area, just leading up to that spot, and then between the stage and the seating area, have it asphalted, and we can have it marked for ADA seating areas as well. They got a bid on it and a quote, and it's just over $8,000. And their proposal is that the Playhouse will furnish half of that if the town would do half. We do have money budgeted for unspecified ADA improvements in our facilities maintenance budget. So for something a little north of $4,000 in cooperation with them, we could address this issue that will resolve the erosion and safety issues, as well as improving ADA access and accommodation for seating in that area. So I think it's something we could do and be a good project, but I'd like to get council's input.
Well, when I first heard about this, the first thing that came to mind, and I'm not on the Playhouse board, so they may have already discussed this. So anybody who's watching this, I apologize. Asphalt in that, two things came up. The heat of asphalt in the summer, the sun shining on it and putting people in wheelchairs on asphalt down there. I'm just wondering about that. And second, we have a general stormwater issue in that section anyway. And are we considering, you mentioned that it would solve some drainage problems, but are we considering how that ties into the rest of the issues with water runoff in that area? And I wonder if this is way out there thinking without enough data. So I recognize that. It seems to me like the ADA section, if it was concrete, I know it would cost more, but it would last a lot longer. It wouldn't have to be as large, and then incorporate whatever we need to do in order to correct the stormwater issues there. I'm assuming we have stormwater issues because there's always holes and cones. So that's my thoughts. Some of them are probably not founded well.
We do definitely have drainage issues through there, and they create the ruts that again create issues for folks who are walking through there. The heat issue makes sense. My thought with the paving that area would be able, generally when you do that, you're able to kind of spread out water flow a little better, as opposed to it creating a trench that just gets worse and worse. But again, that was their proposal, and my position was that I needed to bounce it off council and get your input and thoughts. I'll be happy to take any alternate proposals back to them.
How does Cliff feel about asphalt there?
I have not discussed that with him. This came in just the latter part of last week.
I'd really
We're
like to
talking
know.
about like, I just need some clarification on exactly where this is located. So I know that like Stan Crew Way goes into the Playhouse area. And then, so if you go down that road, and then there's like a little shack, like a little house where they sell tickets or concessions out of.
On the left.
So is this paving that they're talking about doing on Stan Crew Way and like up into there? I don't think I'm imagining. I need a visual.
This is just between the stage and where the seating is. When you would
Oh,
off of the stage, then there's a gravel area before you start up into the seating space.
and normally there's like mulch or something down there that's just kind of,
Gravel.
or gravel.
Mhm.
And how big is this space are we talking about? I mean, do we have any square feet that we know? Did they say?
I think I had something, not off the top of my head.
I was just curious. I mean,
Seems like it's 20 to 30 feet. You can have two cars side by side in that area.
so if asphalt's $8,000, I mean, I wonder what concrete would be.
A lot more,
A lot more.
but it lasts 30 or 40 times longer. I don't know if that's an accurate number. It lasts a lot longer, and it's better for water channeling. I mean, if Cliff looked at it and said, hey, this doesn't make it worse, and they're willing to go halvesies on it, that sounds like a good solution if it makes everyone happy. But I would like to know that it does fall into what our stormwater specialist would say is the right thing to do.
You're right, because I mean, it's at the bottom of a hill, basically.
Mhm.
I mean, it's a slope. So you're talking about an area that's at the base of a slope in front of the stage. So routing the water correctly, if you're going to do it, would make sense.
Yeah, the water is going to come through there.
Mhm.
Regardless, that's the issue now.
Yeah.
If we can spread it out and slow it down a little bit, that should help. You have additional impervious surface, but that surface could help manage the flow in the rest of the area. So I'll be happy to have him review that.
Might be kind of interesting to see side by side, bids.
Is that enough to move forward?
That'll get us started. All right, thank you.
Are you,
Registration process, we've completed that in the state CAM system for the Tennessee CARES Act funds. There's about $128,000 that are available to us. So we'll reimburse for COVID related expenses. Carol and I completed the training that was required, and we've had a conference call with a local government coordinator to discuss some of the provisions and how we'll need to proceed. The area of payroll and what is and is not or will not be reimbursable is a very gray area right now, so we'll be working through that. But in terms of being eligible to get the funds, we've done everything we need to do there. Been working with Loretta, met with her and Leslie to kind of develop a longer term plan for the transfer station operations. We've altered it some through the pandemic, but basically we've we're operating or have operated the facility as we did decades ago. As the town has grown, we're having a real hard time managing the level of materials, especially brush and building materials. And it's a challenge too, the way that we in the past have charged for those things. People are kind of left to eyeball truckloads and trailer loads, and we're trying to formalize that a little bit. So I just want to kind of give you a heads up on that. We'll be coming to council with some changes to fee structures on that, and general operating protocols in terms of whether we continue to restrict contractor use and things like that on a more permanent basis.
Our tipping fees are weight, not volume.
They are volume.
They're volume.
Right, because we actually anticipated putting a scale in when we built the facility. The problem is there are things that we charge for and things that we don't charge for. Metal, we actually get some revenue off of, so there's not a fee to dump that. Construction materials and such, there is a fee. Brush, there isn't a fee. And when people come in, a lot of times they have a variety of things on a particular vehicle. So there's really no way that a scale, unless they were going to go up and unload certain things and then come back, it really ended up seeming it was going to be almost as complicated, if not more so, and we would have the expense of the scale. So we're just going to try to be more defined in terms and look at different size trailers. And, you know, if you have a 5x8 trailer that has a load that if leveled would be 2 feet deep, then you can calculate a cubic foot volume and put a fee to that. Same trailer with a 3 foot deep load would, so we'll basically have a chart. So where people will still have to look at it, but you can work with a resident and say, okay, your trailer's 5x8. That looks like it would be about 3 feet if it was leveled off. And if they say yes, then you just simply look at the chart and tell them what the fee is. And I think it'd be a lot better scenario. So
Yeah,
those are the kind of things we're trying to work on.
all right.
Recently we received a request from Governor Lee for all police departments to review their policies, specifically the duty to intervene and use of force policies. Chief Williams and his staff have completed that, and we are in compliance with what the state asks, and they have completed the required documentation and submitted that. So if you hear anything from that, TML was sending something out earlier, and I checked with Chief Williams, and we've already taken care of that. Meter installations have begun, and they're going very well. The guys are going ahead of the installers and addressing issues that they're aware of. They've done a really good job of not only prepping in advance of the installs beginning, but trying to keep ahead of them and getting particularly problematic areas and installs ready for them. And from what Adam says, they're really moving maybe even faster than anticipated. So it's going very well. Last thing, you guys may have seen, we don't have anything formal, but this would technically be the last meeting we will have by electronic means under the current executive order, but we have been told that we should expect to see an extension for at least another month. So I'll be watching for that to come out formally, and we'll let you guys know. If that doesn't happen, then we'll need to look at revisiting. We've already looked at it and kind of laid out what we'll need to do, but If by chance it doesn't happen, we'll have to review our protocols for an in-person meeting. But right now, they're anticipating that'll be extended at least through September. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. That's a perfect segue into really the main thing I wanted to bring up with reports, Mayor, Council. I would like to propose that we return to a modified in-person meeting that would allow people to still use Zoom if they wanted to, but be in person if they wanted to, and use the stage at the Mac Theater. We've picked up a lot of practical experience in having multiple cameras going. We have a space here that seats about 200. You can keep that at 25, 30% capacity easily and handle the numbers of people that generally come to council meetings. So we give citizens an opportunity to come into a space where there's already protocol in place for checking temperatures and wearing masks and those sorts of things. We can have a camera on the microphone. We can have people sitting on the stage seated 6 feet apart easily. It's a large enough space. And if anyone wanted to still participate via Zoom, that works as well, because we can have a screen up with the person who's on Zoom speaking, showing there, and then all the people on the stage would also be on Zoom as well. So it's just that there would be a screen that shows that view where the person who's speaking at the moment is there. So I think we could accommodate all of that. I just wonder what the thoughts are. Some of these discussions that we need to have just are so much better if we can have them in person, like when we're talking about water, stormwater fees and those kinds of things. It's just, maybe we can move in that direction. Any thoughts on that?
I'm
Yes,
okay
sir.
with meeting in person.
I'd like to see what the governor does.
Yeah.
Well, I think he's going to extend it. He's going to allow us to continue to have Zoom meetings. There's no question about that. And I'm not saying we abandon Zoom meetings. This would still be Zoom for anyone who wants it to be Zoom. So the hybrid meeting, I guess that's my question. Any thoughts on that? Assuming all of this fantastic stuff I just described is real and can work, how do you feel about that? You muted, Carol. Can anyone hear Carol?
Yeah.
I can hear her through this wall right here, but that's,
You're used to that, though.
yeah, for
Try
some
to get
reason,
Carol.
it's not coming up.
Okay, last try.
There we go.
Okay.
You're good.
I was just wondering if staff would also be eligible to use the Zoom feature.
Yes,
Thank you.
I think anybody who wants to use Zoom should be able to use Zoom. So, any other discussion on that idea? I don't know that it's something we need to vote on. It's just 4 of us. Susanna, you indicated that you would be okay with it. Cheryl, I don't think yet. Bill, what do you think, Bill? I understand if you don't want to do it.
As long as I have the option to participate via Zoom, I'm fine with a hybrid idea.
Absolutely. And we'd put you on the screen and you would be larger than life.
That's a scary thought.
How about you, Cheryl?
I would be okay with in person. Yeah.
Okay. Can we move forward with that being a possibility for the next meeting? We would test all of that ahead of time, and then we can talk about it before the agenda goes out. Is that okay?
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boyd, are you okay with that?
Yes, sir. And we do have, it is a 3-week, if I'm looking at the calendar right, we've got a 3-week span between meetings this go round. So that'll give us a little more time to play with it and make sure it functions properly.
Yeah, okay.
Can I ask just for clarification, Dan, are you proposing this simply for town council or for any boards and committees to start, I guess at their discretion to start moving sort of a format.
I think we should inject the experimental serum into our arms first and see how it works.
I was just thinking we may have September meetings ahead of the next council meeting, and I didn't know if this was a desire to move in that direction for those.
I don't think we should. I think we should try it first and see if it's awful before we inflict it on anyone else.
Logistics. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. But we'll need your help, Sam, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Happy to.
You'll get to work a switcher again.
It'll be a dream come true.
There you go.
It's been a while.
The only other thing that I have just quick is that there's a BZA meeting this week, and the two things on there, somebody would like to do a non-standard swimming pool and get a variance, and someone has a question about a front yard setback variance. That's it for me. Anybody else?
I have some good news. The theater at the MAC is now officially the home to the new Mountain Opry.
Wow, I didn't know that.
That's
cool.
very exciting.
We are quite tickled about that.
Fantastic.
We have the last Nightfall meeting this week, show this week as well. So,
Right.
and the Chattanooga Symphony is recording something as well for their school programs in the theater.
Yeah, they will have quintets up there. It's a teaching experience for the kids. So yeah, we'll be taking care of that too.
Great.
Good news.
Suzanne or Bill, anything to add?
Nothing.
All right, so for
Nope.
any other reports from committees or boards or other business?
Not a single meeting.
So tentative agenda, we had two things we talked about putting off. One was stormwater fees.
Mhm.
And the other
Committee.
was the discussion of the fire code section,
Correct.
wildland interface. How do you think we could handle both of those in an evening?
What about, and also the committee?
Board.
Right, I don't think that one will be that hard, but.
Yeah.
I think the stormwater fee structure will just take a time because it's technical. I think the wildland urban interface, it would be great to be able to have the tree board folks there. So if folks want to speak, they can. Any thoughts?
Since we went ahead with the remainder of the fire code and it's less pressing, we can forward the wildland urban interface sections to the tree board. And again, there is a 3-week gap. It's a little longer than normal, but maybe we check with them and see if they think they would be ready for discussion by the next meeting. If not, that may lighten the load a little bit.
True, and they're still supposed to get back with us. From the
That
last
was
meeting.
my thought. They're still working on the general code. So I wondered about adding this to the mix and then being ready for discussion. So
Yeah.
that's why I
Okay.
suggested that.
We could play it by ear then.
Yeah.
All right. I believe we're ready to adjourn. Do you have anything else to add to that meeting, Boyd?
We'll have a second reading on all of the codes, which should go quicker. So, and resolutions right now, we'll have resolutions for each of the applications for the boards
We
available.
can do those in batch, yeah. Okay. I think we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.